What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? It's Fly Nubian Money, y'all, where we help you to master your mindset and maximize your what? Your money. That's right, ladies. So, listen, today we are going to talk about a topic that I think is kind of crazy, but I've been seeing it all over the internet. There's this New York City mother. She's been saying that she's been paying $3,000 a month in rent, but she's living in a freezing apartment with her children. And today we are discussing the housing crisis, landlord accountability, renters' rights, and what families are really dealing with in this economy. But before we get started, I want to introduce the flyest ladies of the Fly Nubian Money and the Fly Nubian Queen channel. First, we have Miss Dr. Charm. Dr. Charm is a real estate professional. She is a medical doctor. She is a psychic medium. And she is a stand-up comedian, y'all. So she could sell you a house. She could deliver your baby. She could tell you a joke. And she could read your future, ladies and gentlemen. That's Dr. Charm right there. And then next we have Dr. Felice Britt. Now, Felice is a therapist and a Be Big coach. So if y'all don't know nothing about being big, you need to holler at her so she can make you big. All right? And finally, last but not least, we have Miss Dominique Morgan, who is a real estate professional and a nurse practitioner. And so we're going to talk about, I think we have all the right people. We actually have, the cool thing is we have 3 real estate professionals or queens or gurus, and we have a therapist who could give us the mindset and the mentality over here as well. So I'm excited about the conversation. But before we get to the video, y'all, what did you guys think when you heard that somebody is paying $3,000 but getting a freezing apartment? I'll go with you, Charm.
Okay, so I actually had that happen to me. As you all know, I lived in Chicago for many, many, many years, and I had just moved into a brand new, beautiful luxury apartment, and the heat went out. Now, and there was a fireplace, but I could not utilize the fireplace because there was like furniture in front of it, and we were waiting on a part, and so I had to sit there in this beautiful apartment with an electric space heater, wondering when my heat was going to come back on. And it took like 2 days. So it's not fun, especially when you live in a cold environment like, Chicago or New York or where it snows.
Yeah. That's crazy. What about you, Dominique? What did you think when you heard about this lady paying a whole whopping $3,000 a month and she ain't even got no heat?
When I heard it, I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. But it's not.
Where do you live?
I'm in Chicago as well. So it's not like it's something that's unheard. Like Dr. Sharp said, things happen, the landlord take their time. People even have their electricity turned off. And so it's not something that is unheard of. So I wasn't surprised by it.
What about you, Felice?
It's reflective of where we are in our country. Like, we live in a country where people have rents that are really ridiculous, and it's literally highway robbery. Because if you think about, you've got these apartments, there's about, maybe, let's just say there's at least 10 apartments, and they're each charging at least $3,000 a month. Like, that's robbery. Like, they've already paid the mortgage on that property years ago. And so for you to keep charging people rents, that is literally thievery. And that mishaps can happen. Yeah, things can happen where the heat goes off, or the lights may go out, or the Wi-Fi, the internet goes out. Nobody should be paying $3,000 to live and they're renting. now, if you're in a mortgage, right? You're in a 5,000 square foot home, that's something different. You can see 3,000, but to be renting 3,000, that's unacceptable.
So 3,000 in New York City is actually kind of cheap. I know people who are paying 5,000. In fact, I was just speaking to somebody the other day. They're helping their daughter who just graduated from college, and she's paying $5,400 per month. So New York City rent is ridiculous. And you're from New York. Yep.
I'm from New York, and I don't care. I don't care if it's New York. I don't care if it's California. I don't care about the logistics. It's still robbery.
But it's market. So you think that I mean, if it's the going rate, you think that they're robbing these people if that's the going rate of what the rent is?
Yeah, I do. I think it's thievery. I don't care that it's the market. So people are moving there, and so you think it's okay just because people are moving there in order to find a better way to make it or to find opportunity. You think because people are looking for opportunity, it's okay to rob them because it's the market? No.
I will say as an investor, I'm going to charge whatever the market rent is. That's just what it is. Now, I'm not going to be a slumlord, but I'm going to charge whatever the market rate rent is, and that's just me. So I think that there's the two things, right? So rent prices are relative. It's relative to area. So that $3,000 in New York might be $1,500 in Charlotte. It
No,
might
it's not.
be
No, Charlotte's high too.
oh, it might be $2,000 in Charlotte, but it's not New York City rent.
So can I just share something with you? So I had a friend who they went into it's an area in Charlotte called South End, like it's the up and coming, people. The average rent there, because they was like, well, how much do you think you might want to pay for an apartment? And they were like, $2,500 is decent. She said, oh, that's cute.
Oh, that's cute.
That was cute. $3,000, $3,200.
But I'm saying for that $3,000 apartment, there she's probably in a 1-bedroom box. So I haven't seen the video, but it's probably not a luxury apartment. It's probably something that will be equivalent to maybe a $1,500 or $2,000 in another area. But I don't think that's going to be a high end place because the rents are so, they're so extravagant in New York City. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the price is, what the rent is. The responsibility goes back to the owner. But it is what it is. And also, you got to understand too. So if you're buying $1 million place, your mortgage is not going to be $3,000. It's going to be something like $7,000, $8,000. So it got to be relative to what's going on in the market. I'm not going to pay a $7,000, $8,000 mortgage, and because everybody's not just cash flowing on these properties. So anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Well, it's an overall issue with affordable housing because the rates of home prices have grown twice as fast as wages over the past 50 years. So it's really a snowball
rent too.
Right.
And
so the house. So so rent is determined by mortgage. So if the housing prices have grown exponentially and exceeded wages, then of course the landlord is going to charge a market rate of rent based on what the mortgage is. So it's all connected. It's a domino effect.
All relative. And you know what? And you're absolutely right. And here's the thing, that even though the real estate market is cyclical in terms of like things going up and down, sometimes the market will correct itself. What we've never seen is the rental market go down ever. Rent's always going up.
So can we?
But wait. Before we continue the discussion, can we look at the video? Do you mind?
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at the video. Or do we have a video, or is this just a post? What we doing?
It's really
okay. Here we go.
Full of fucking slumlords, y'all. This room belongs to my youngest 2 daughters.
Ooh.
And at this point,
it's her.
It's so cold in here.
Is that smoke?
That I can see the smoke coming out of my mouth.
Yo. We playing that again? Or what we doing? Yo.
That's crazy.
We inside the house.
New York is really full of fucking slumlords, y'all. This room belongs to my youngest 2 daughters. And at this point, it's so cold in here that I could see the smoke coming out of my mouth.
So the landlord is breaking the law because most likely she has a furnace. And for people who haven't lived up north, when you live in certain buildings, you don't have any control over your heat. The building's heat is coming from a furnace and it goes all over the building. Now you may be able to adjust a regulator to turn your heat up and down, but you have no control over whether you have heat or not. And then so for the city of New York, in the heat season, which is considered October 1st to May 31st, in the nighttime from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., the apartment temperature has to be 62 degrees Fahrenheit. In the daytime from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., apartments have to be 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Chicago, other cities have these type of regulations. So if she's got frost coming out of her mouth, it's probably 30 degrees in that apartment. And so there isn't anything that she can do because she doesn't control heating in the building. All she can do is get some space heaters and things like that. But she needs to contact the law. You know, the landlord, he or she, whomever is man, they're breaking the law.
That's crazy. Dominique.
Yeah, that's nuts. And the thing about it is, when we're having these conversations, sometimes people say, well, the bill's not paid. This has nothing to do with her. This has everything to do with her landlord not taking responsibility and accountability for his asset. And it's not right. It's not okay. And it's not legal.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Felice?
So when I saw that, I don't know, my heart hurt a little bit, especially when she said that was her girl's room, right? And so I hear what y'all say. I know that there's a whole bunch of people investing in apartments, and it's an asset. At what point do we take care of our neighbors? At what point do we think about humans over whether or not we gonna get, y'all give me some grace, we getting paid? Because at the end of the day, and I'm just going to show you the statistics. In 2019, pre-pandemic, Charlotte had about 19,000 evictions that year.
Wow.
Post-pandemic, 55,000 evictions. These are real people I know that cannot afford their rents. And so these are good people who work, want to work, can work, but they literally cannot afford their rent. So at what point do we take care of people? So that's all I'm saying. And is it okay for us to be putting people out on the street so that we can have, I don't know, so we can build bigger bank accounts? When do we take care of people? And so this is ridiculous. And I don't think anybody should be paying $3,000 rent. I'm sorry. I don't think that is reasonable. I think that is thievery. I think we are stealing from people if we are charging them $3,000 rent, especially for one bedrooms.
But baby, this ain't about the rent. This is about the furnace.
I know, but guess what? So she can't even move somewhere that has a working furnace because she can only she's having to afford $3,000. So yeah, the furnace. I grew up with a furnace. Lord, I love them. I don't care what nobody say. So I can't take the cold because I grew up with a furnace.
Baby, that furnace will heat that apartment. It will heat it down.
All year round, I lived in a heated apartment. So all year I felt heat in the hood, right? And so I love furnaces. And so I can't take the cold now because of it. I get it. But what I'm saying is that $3,000 and a broken furnace, unacceptable.
It is unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
You're right. It's unacceptable. So first off, she needs to call the housing authority because it is against the law. And she does not need to pay her rent. So of course she could stop paying her rent, but that doesn't stop the cold. I hate extreme weather. I don't want to be nowhere where it's too hot or too cold. Nowhere. I don't like being uncomfortable. So to see that lady blowing smoke inside the house is insane.
And then here's the alternative. The alternative is that she has to go get a hotel room. I don't know her situation, but it seems like she is a single mother. So now you're barely paying rent, or you're struggling to pay rent. Now you got to go and try to go get a hotel in the city of New York, which average hotels are like $200-$300 a night.
Yeah.
And then stay there indefinitely while the landlord decides on what they want to do, or maybe get some space heaters. I mean, and those are a risk of fire. So,
yes. Dr. Tom, higher than that, $200, $300 is a motel.
Right.
In New
I was
York.
there a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a hotel, you looking at $500-$600 a night for a hotel.
Yeah, depending on where it is. I go to New York all the time, so I've gotten them for different price ranges. But if it's high season and where she's at, if they're $500 there, and then she's got to try to shop around, and it might not be convenient.
Yeah, the point is it's inconvenient all the way around. It is definitely the landlord that is in the wrong here. And so she needs to be reimbursed. She needs to be taken care of immediately. There's no way that she should be blowing smoke inside her home, which is crazy. But to your point, Dr. Felice, I had a tenant that did not pay me, I think from July, August, September. She didn't pay me 3 months. And I didn't throw her out. Young girl, she's been there a couple of months. She was struggling. And so, but I was going to, and I said, okay, listen, I'll work with you, but I need a plan, and I need you to stick with your plan. What is the plan? And of course, it's just a lot more takes a lot more to throw somebody out, to evict somebody anyway. But she's a young girl. And so she gave me a plan. She gave me a 12-month plan to get caught up on her rent. And she's been honoring it ever since. So, you know, I'm in agreement with you. There are some ruthless people out there. There's some ruthless landlords. In fact, we had my company had acquired, because we didn't have property management in our business, and we decided to do property management, and it was a mess because we took on, I don't know, maybe 100 doors or something like that, and we worked with people who were slumlords, who just didn't want to do anything. There were houses that didn't have like emergency exits, one way in, one way. I mean, it was just terrible. And people would come into my office crying because of the way the landlords were not taking care of the properties. And I was like, yo, we did it for, I don't know, maybe a year, maybe, but I had to take it out of our business model because I said, I've worked too hard to build the reputation of this company up, to have it destroyed by these landlords, because it's a lot of people who all they're there is just to collect the money. And so you're right. It is a lot of folks who don't care. I mean, they will barely pass things just to get it to pass, and won't do anything over. And that's a shame. There's a lot of greed out there. So sometimes, you know, you can't be mad when people, you know, if people will squat on them or leave their houses tore up. But at the same time, you know, you have that on the other hand. Those are the risks that we take as investors or landlords, is having tenants who may not take care of our properties and things like that.
And the law in a lot of municipalities is landlord friendly, and so there's not
in New York. Not in New York, because you have a lot of rent control, and not in California.
Right. But a lot of places is landlord friendly. It's easy to evict tenants. Like here in Georgia, they're very landlord friendly. Chicago is more tenants right, so it's kind of dependent on where you live. So there isn't enough punitive measures, I think, to punish these slumlords, because, you know, me as a landlord, I kept a home warranty. I kept things running and tuning and getting things how they're supposed to be done. And if I hear anything from a tenant, I'm on it immediately. But everybody doesn't have that attitude, and a lot of these big conglomerates that are investor owned, and they have a property manager that a lot of them are just very corporate. It's just business as usual, and slow to fix things, but quick to evict.
Can I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. So what I see that's happening in New York right now is that they're allowing now corporations to come in and buy places that used to be rent controlled. And so that is getting eliminated and actually pushing people out of neighborhoods that they've grown up in for years, decades, and now they're allowing them to come in and buy these rent controlled properties. And so
you still have rent control though.
No. And so, like, I know, because my mom, that's what's happening with them. And so what can people do? Like, if rent control is starting to kind of dwindle and go away because you have these corporations coming in and buying these properties, what can people do? What are the rights of people?
How is the corporations eliminating rent control? Because those are local ordinances that are in place. So the corporations can't eliminate rent control. And New York definitely has. Now, I don't know your mom's situation, but I know New York definitely has very, very strong rent control and rental rights. So I don't know that the corporations are doing anything, but I do know that there has been a push since 2008 where a lot of corporations were buying up a lot of these properties. So I remember I would see, because we were trying to buy a bunch of them, they would buy them in bulk. They would just have pages and pages and pages, and corporations would just be buying hundreds of properties. And so even in Georgia, I think they said 40% of the rental properties are corporations. And so now I think this administration is pushing back on corporations purchasing the property so that we can have more owner or individual single owners of these properties, because it has exacerbated rents exponentially. But that was after the recession, the big housing crisis of 2008, where we saw a big number of corporations coming in, and it has caused a huge problem. I don't know that they can't do anything about rent control. So there may be something going on in that area where,
this is my concern, is that colonization has now got on steroids, because there's going to
capitalism,
be a huge population of our people that are going to be sacrificed and having to figure out how to survive. And so, you know, what can we do to make sure that our people are okay? And
that's the issue.
I think legal advocacy is huge because I'm a Georgia licensed realtor, and the Georgia rental market has ballooned 300% in prices because it is the wild, wild west out here. They allow these corporate conglomerates to purchase whole communities of homes that would have been a first-time home buyer haven, and they're just turning them into everything is for rent. So now you drive up the rental prices, and then you're locking people out of first-time home ownership. Now there's grants. I mean, we've got a $50,000 grant through the state of Georgia and the city of Atlanta right now for first-time home buyers. But if the home prices are high and because you got the investors coming in, you got some of them are individual investors, but some of them are corporate investors. So that's driving the housing market up. And then in turn, it's driven the rental market through the roof. In the past 10 years, 300% in Atlanta.
That's crazy. I don't know. There's, you know, we talked about it last week or maybe the week before, Felice, remember you said capitalism. And when you have capitalism, that gap is just getting wider and wider. And it's like, okay, who's going to be buying this shit? Who's going to be renting this shit? Who's going to be paying for this shit? Because when you have corporate greed that's at the forefront of everything, all they're thinking about is how can I go from being a millionaire to a billionaire to a trillionaire? And they're not thinking about the people. Who's going to be buying this shit? Nobody. And so I think they're blinded by the money. But it all will end up failing and falling because of greed. Let's take a look at this next video so we could get a little bit more details.
York went online and broke down, saying she pays $3,000 a month in rent, yet her apartment feels like a refrigerator.
And at this point, it's so cold in here that I could see the smoke.
And her kids are spending the winter in that kind of cold. She says she's filed complaints multiple times and no one has taken responsibility. But does she not understand how utilities work? Rent pays for the unit. Heat, gas, water, those are often separate and your own responsibility. In New York, you're paying $3,000 and expecting all of that included? A lot of mothers give up gold earrings and fake lashes just to buy warm clothes for their kids and keep up with bills. Now, suddenly it's someone else's fault? If you're spending on luxury items, shouldn't you make sure the basics are covered first? If it's really about the kids, at the very least, you could buy a space heater to keep them warm. Maybe some people genuinely don't realize that rent and utilities are billed separately, but others argue this is entirely the landlord's responsibility. She paid, she followed the rules, so why isn't basic heat provided? That's the minimum living standard. So where's the real problem? Is this just one bad landlord, or is this how the city really operates?
What are we talking about? That was
very inflammatory and tone.
I didn't hear a whole lot until she said the eyelashes and shit. What are we talking about here? What the hell is going on?
Whoever did that voiceover, they probably got a MAGA hat somewhere hidden or visible. But again, people don't understand if you're not living up north that these buildings have furnaces and that furnace is probably broken. And even if she had a space heater, space heaters are dangerous. Year after year, every winter, you have thousands of people who have their homes, that catch on fire because the space heater tipped over. Now they have some of them now that if they have a tip over prevention, like an auto shut off, because I have one like that. But again, that's not going to heat the ambient home either. And also, her rent pays for this furnace, so it's supposed to be included.
Yeah.
Where does the judgment come in? Like with the eyelashes, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
why do you have to go there? So she's got to be poor, broke, and ugly. Like, like it makes no sense. Like it's just annoying. Like I don't know where the judgment came in on that. Like that was ridiculous.
And she made it clear that she's the landlord. She's been reaching out to the landlord. So I'm pretty sure she would know if she was responsible for paying a bill. You get what I'm saying? She wouldn't get on social media. And on top of that, she can see her breath. She's been in that and her children have been in that for a long time. What the hell do you think a space heater is going to do for that?
I just wish people would stop hating Black women. Any excuse This lady, it's clear that the landlord is responsible for the heat. Otherwise, she wouldn't have said, I filed a complaint. She would have said, hey, I paid my heating bill and I still have no heat. But no, everybody goes straight to the hair and the lashes and everything else because people hate Black women.
Yeah. Listen, I 100% agree. It sounds like, have you guys been hearing the hearings with Congress and what's her name? It's like every time they question these Republicans, they, instead of them answering the question, they always come back, well, why don't you, and Trump is the best, and they never answered that commentary had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that her landlord did not take care of, and regardless if she was paid or not, her eyelashes had nothing to do with her house freezing. The furnace is broke. Like, the hell are you talking about?
Yeah,
but
there's some cases where the landlords have gone to jail.
Hold on. This is what discourse has come to. Nobody really wants to have real dialogue. It's all about deflection and gaslighting. It's like we're in the fucking twilight zone, especially when it comes to politics, especially when it comes to race, especially when it comes to social issues. It's just gaslighting. Nobody wants to talk about the real issues. Or you'll say something, and then they'll say something so polar opposite. Well, then you should go live in China. What does that have to do with me having basic human rights? Like, this is just, it's crazy. So
there have been cases where landlords have gone to jail because of some of these slumlords have gone to jail. So if say one of her, God forbid, I hate to even say this, but say one of her children or somebody dies in that house from hypothermia, it could be a criminal offense for the landlord, and they can be held civilly liable for tort or wrong if something that has happened like that. And this has happened before, where they've gone to jail over these things.
Well, look what happened to that girl. Remember when her babies froze to death in that car? She was in that car. I mean, that very well can happen. It's the freaking play. Tiara, can you put your finger on the trigger real quick? I want them to see this one more again. I want them to see this lady talking and the smoke coming out of her mouth inside her home, which was insane. I know I didn't already prepare you. I didn't prepare you, Tiara, but I just really need people to see what it is that we're talking about for the people who just tuned in. So for the folks who just tuned in, we're talking about a lady in New York City. She's paying $3,000 a month. And regardless if she's paying it to somebody else, that landlord is getting paid 3,000 American dollars every single month. And she is living up in a house where she could, here we go. Go ahead.
Full of fucking slumlords, y'all. This room belongs to my youngest two daughters. And at this point, it's so cold in here that I could see the smoke coming out of my mouth.
Crazy. That is absolutely, it's unacceptable.
Crazy.
It's unacceptable. So for them, and this is how America is right now. America is full of gaslighters. So for people turning it on like it's her fault, there is just a basic lack of humanity that people have, depending upon who the victim is. And what if that was a white woman, they would have come to her rescue.
So there'd be a GoFundMe.
Yeah, they would have had a GoFundMe, but the lack of empathy, just like you said, Dr. Charm, for Black women, and a lot of times it comes from Black men, but I don't even want to talk about that. But the lack of empathy that people have for Black women is just crazy. And it's just this whole part of white supremacy. We have another video I want to take a look at, but just like Incock 4654 said, it's not her fault, but they'll figure out how to blame the Black woman as always. Let's take a look at the next video, Tiara.
Y'all want to know the real rent crises in New York, and the problem is buildings like this going up. How the hell can a one-bedroom in this building cost $3,350 in Flatbush, Brooklyn? Just think about it. How much money you have to make to afford a building like this in the hood? They say 30% of your monthly income should go to rent. So in order for me to afford a building like this, I gotta be making at least $11,100 a month. How many transit workers, teachers, police officers, firefighters, and other city workers can really afford that. None. How about this building right here on Linden Boulevard? If you want a 2-bedroom, you got to be paying $4,000 a month. Who could really afford that as a city worker? None. I can guarantee you, no middle-class landlords own those buildings. Crazy thing about it is for that price, you getting an apartment the size of a closet. The middle class is not leaving New York to buy mansions. They're leaving New York because it's cheaper to rent a house outside of state than to rent an apartment in New York City. These politicians love talking about the poor, but they have officially abandoned the working and middle class in this city. This is not gentrification by accident. This is displacement by design. The other tricky part when it comes to affordable housing is either you make too much and you can't get the apartment, or you make too little and you can't get the apartment. There's a lot of city workers that fall into that gap right there. You cannot call it affordable housing if you need a 6-figure salary to qualify. When rent eats up 50-60% of your paycheck, that's not housing, that's economic punishment. Transit workers, sanitation workers, nurses, we're not asking for luxury, we're asking for stability. New York City don't have a people problem, it has a rent problem.
So that goes back to what you were saying, Felice.
Right.
So articulate.
That's it. So when I was young, I don't know, I might have been about 10. There was this circular going out on the trains, and it was a picture of people of color around this wall looking inside New York. Mm. And so what that depicted to us, that there was going to come a day in New York City where Black and brown people would not be able to live in the city.
Really?
And it's literally, that was years ago. And so it is literally coming to pass where you are creating a system that is displacing Black and brown people in a city that belongs to all of us. You know what I mean? And it is built by all, and it just makes no sense. And that's where I'm going as far as what can we do to keep Black and brown people from being displaced, not just in New York. This is an epidemic that's happening all around the country. And so you are going to have what? Homeless Black and brown people all around our country because they're not able to afford rent, but they could work for you, but they can't live. That makes no sense.
So what's happening? For those of you guys who have your ears to the ground, what's happening in those cities where? Because I know in San Francisco, it's been like that. You paying $5,000 for a box, and what happened? What happened in San Francisco is, it being the Silicon Valley and one of the areas where they were vetting a lot of these big businesses, the Googles and all that stuff. What would happen was they would give them tax breaks. So they didn't have to pay taxes as businesses to come in to create businesses in the city of San Francisco. And so it drove, population in San Francisco, I don't care what nobody says, it's less than 1%. There's no Black population in San Francisco. So all the Black people are gone, but they would have these little bitty matchbox apartments, and they would have 4 bunk beds per room. And these people who worked at Google will be paying like $2,000 each to be on somebody's bunk bed. I mean, it's just insane. So is that what's happening in these big cities like New York, Chicago? Are people like just doubling, tripling, quadrupling up?
I just think I've been going to New York for, what are we, 26, since like 2011. I go every year. And I remember I would go and stay with my homegirl. She lived in Bed-Stuy. She had a 2-bedroom. She rented a 2-bedroom brownstone. It was 2-story. She had two nice bedrooms, nice amount of space. She was paying $1,600 a month. This was in 2010, 2011. And so now that brownstone where she lives, probably the rent was probably $4,000 or $5,000. Before September 11th, Brooklyn and some of the outer areas, they were more Black people, Hispanic people, depending on what the pockets were, and the white people were more in the Manhattan. But when the towers collapsed, you had an exodus because people were so afraid. An exodus of people flooding to Brooklyn, flooding to these other areas that were historically more affordable for people, non-white people, and just people in general. And so now you have that. And then you have a situation in New York too, where there are brownstones that were historically owned by families, homes owned by Black families, where the law is on the side of these corporations where they are deliberately taking people's homes. There'll be like a tax bill or a light bill that hadn't been paid for, or it got caught up in the mix. and they legally can take these people's homes. You've seen stories about it in protests, even as recently as like last year. I saw a really horrible story where this house was paid off, and the corporation was in cahoots with the city council, and they were able to take this home away from this elderly Black woman, if I'm not mistaken. So you're seeing things like this happen. So it is a snowball effect. Then you have relaxed restrictions where these corporations could come in and buy these buildings and jack up the rents, and now it's not affordable. It is displacement. It happened in my neighborhood in Houston. Gentrification is colonization in the modern day. My neighborhood, we were in a food desert, which means that you don't have fresh fruits and vegetables. You'd have to get on the bus and go somewhere. I grew up in a shotgun house, and now my grandmother's home that she bought and paid for in 1953, taxes got behind, family ended up selling it to a neighbor, and then they started gentrifying, and he sold it to the gentrifiers. And now there are $400,000 homes in my neighborhood. They got a Whole Foods over there, and I can't even drive home when I go home because it makes me so angry. It makes me angry.
Well, you said it. Gentrification is the new colonization. But Dominique, let me ask you a question, because is it really gentrification if Black people are selling? Like, whose fault is it?
I think it's greed. Overall, I think that people are so driven by money instead of basic humanity. Because even when you think about affordable housing, right? Affordable housing is usually slum, right? It's not well maintained. You have a lot of these issues with the heat. It's in very poor condition, but it may be affordable, but is it really livable? And I think that people are just greedy. Like, people don't care about people. People care about their bottom line, because at some point people shouldn't be working just to keep a roof over their head and barely making it. And that's just your rent. That's it.
But Dominique, they can't gentrify if the Black people ain't selling. Y'all selling grandmama's house. So whose fault is that really?
Again, it's greed, right? Like, think about it. Like, even selling grandmother's house, right? They sell it because it's money, and they're trying to make money because they've been struggling for a long time. So they think that it's a family member. They think this is in the best interest of them, not realizing that this is detrimental to them. Because
they may not be able to afford the taxes anymore. Let's think about that. Those property taxes go through the roof. You can't afford the house anymore.
That's what's happening. Get pushed out. Either they're going to sell it, or you're going to get pushed out because you can't afford the property tax.
I don't buy the property taxes. I don't buy it because, okay, property taxes, no, they've gone up from $1,000 to $5,000 a year. You can't afford that $300-400 a month for the property taxes. Come on, son. You gotta pay to live. So I believe, this is what I believe about this whole idea of gentrification. We got to take some accountability here. We always blaming white people for gentrification, and Black people are reactive. We want to get mad after the fact that y'all done sold grandmama's house to the highest bidder, but we don't want to take no accountability. They can't buy grandmama's house if you don't sell grandmama's house. So the taxes, okay, property taxes, now they're $5,000. Property taxes ain't $10,000, but even if they were, okay, $10,000, that's how much per month. You guys could try to figure that shit out, but y'all rather just go ahead and sell grandmama's house. So we have to start thinking more strategically, Black people, but we cannot blame the gentrifiers for buying our property because we are not taking responsibility. It's my opinion.
I think it's greed all the way around. I think it's lack of knowledge. I think it's lack of accountability. I just think that people, because even when you think about grandma's house, sometimes these houses are lost because there weren't proper precautions put in place, like a trust, and so now the house is lost because the things are not in place and people don't have the money to fight for the homes. There needs to be more knowledge and information, about these type of things so people know. But people are losing it because most of the time when you talk to people, people are barely making it. So you're talking about adding an additional $300 or $500. And I've had people come to me and I'm like, no, I think you don't know what the rent market's like. You may need to figure out your housing situation. They think that that's their only way out because they make and they're literally making a couple of dollars. You get what I'm saying? But they think that this is their best way out because they don't see nothing else. And we have to, and again, it's greed across the board. So we have to have conversations with them to say, hey, this is your option and this is what it's looking like out here.
So
that's what I'm saying. Well, hold on, real quick. Let me just respond real quick. Because to what you're saying, just to add to what you're saying, Dominique, lack of knowledge is very, very, very important. They have to really understand. I know people that I know personally are losing their mama's house right now. The mortgage is $1,100, right? That they got $400,000 in equity, and they haven't paid the mama's house in 3 years, only because there was a moratorium on VA loans for a long time. If they understood that there's nowhere in America where they could get a 4-bedroom home for $1,100, it's crazy. Just like these people. Okay, property taxes went up to $5,000. Once you get out and you have to go rent a place, that $500 that you got to pay for property taxes, and you have to. I mean, in most places, it takes about 5 years for it to go into tax sale. So you've had 5 years where you ain't paid shit for this house. Like, you got to take some accountability. You can't get mad because somebody else values something that you didn't value. They value it.
There's cheating that's going. There's cheating that's going on though. Like the neighborhood.
Hold on, real quick. I'm sorry. Felice been trying to talk and I interrupted her, so I'm gonna let her talk first.
Again, apples to oranges, y'all. Like I told you, I grew up without knowing about financial literacy. Mm-hmm. So you've got a group of people who you're now saying your grandmama is leaving the house and they have no clue about financial literacy. Mm-hmm. So you're saying, you mean for 5 years you didn't pay $1,100 when they might be, let's just walk with me a little bit. They might be in affordable housing where they paying what? You're like, let's just walk with me a little bit. $75 because they in some control rent, like, and then you're telling them to go from $75 a month because they're in controlled housing to $1,100 to save grandmama's house. In their mind, the lack of knowledge and finance, they have no clue. And then you're coming behind saying 5 years, they don't know what you're talking about.
Grown people, they grown, and grown people can't live for free. So you guys got to figure that shit out. We got to just start taking accountability, and we got to know what's before us. You can't live nowhere for free. I don't care if you're in grandmama's house or you got to go rent a place. You can't be nowhere for free. So you need to figure that shit out as a grown man.
There's two things going on. You have financial literacy and mentality, but you also have legal theft that's going on. My neighborhood, the example that I gave you about how they gentrified the fuck out of my neighborhood. We had Miss Ophelia on the end of the block, greenhouse. She had a piano. I used to play it. Her granddaughter was keeping up the payments, had moved in there, lived in the house, and the city, Mayor Sylvester Turner, black mayor, had things in place for the homestead exemption for elderly people where they don't have to pay their property taxes if they're over 65. So they had a program where they were able to get some of those things, even though the grandmother had died. But she actually told me, the granddaughter, that one of those investor people had messed with the property line, had fake saying the property line is over here so that they can have her taxes be higher than what they're supposed to be. Legal theft. And she had to go and fight through the city to say, hey, they're lying about this property line. This is incorrect. My taxes should be this, not that. So you're dealing with two different things. And yes, there is a mentality thing about, well, we don't know about taxes. We don't know about this. Oh, somebody's going to give us some money real quick, because that happened in my family. I was very pissed that they sold my grandmother's house, but I wasn't the legal descendant. It was my mother's generation. So there was no will, and all of them had say in that house. So then you don't have a living trust. You don't have these things that are going to protect people, because people don't know, oh, they're just happy to get, oh, the taxes were behind and somebody going to give us $600. I remember one of my family members said, oh, I got $600 from when we sold grandmother's house and I bought me a laptop, and I was so happy to get that. I was so pissed. I'm still angry to this day. I had to process that with my therapist. I really did.
So it's layers, y'all. It's layers upon layers upon layers. And so what are we, as a community of educated people, what do we need to do to make sure that our people are good? Period. Don't get me wrong. Like, we can talk about all the things we do wrong and all these different layers that contribute to us being pushed out, displaced, all the disses. You walking with me? And so at some point we've got to say, for the people who know, because to whom much is given, much is required. So the people who know and can do something, what we gonna do? Like, listen, this is enough.
Felice, let me tell you something.
What?
This is 2,226. Okay? This is not 1926. We have more power in the palm of our hands. You could Google that shit. There is no reason why we should still be this uneducated if we can read. Information is everywhere. All you got to do is fucking Google. So I don't want to hear no black people in 2026 talking about they didn't know. All they got to do is Google. We don't have financial literacy. We don't have knowledge. Of course, we're out here teaching this stuff, and I want to make it accessible to everybody. But there's so much information, we can't keep giving that excuse, especially when it comes to like things like gentrification. I don't have no sympathy for that, and I'm sorry, I'm on the other end of that, because I know black people in that gentrification talk, and y'all, I just believe that we got to be more proactive when it comes to we got to be intentional about our shit, black people. So we got too much information out there for us to be victims in this way. Now, when it comes to the thievery, that legal theft that's happening, when it comes to somebody being duped, when it comes to, you know, a bait and switch type situation, that's one thing. But if you got grandmama's house, her property taxes went to $10,000 a year, which is highly unlikely, and it takes 5 years for that motherfucker to get foreclosed on or a tax sale, you have information. All you gotta do is Google. You can't get nowhere for free.
I get it. And I agree with you, Constance. I agree with you, 80%. There's a 20% of our population who live in a different world, that what you're talking about is not accessible and available to them.
I bet they scrolling on TikTok though.
I think the churches need to get involved. I really, really do. The prosperity preaching, I really, because
they give it to the church though.
That's our community base, is the church. And while ministers over there asking for that handout every Sunday, let's get some financial literacy and education and advocacy, and that is within the realm of community. What the church's responsibility is as a community, because I think that would be a way for it to get to people who are the lay people who don't have that particular knowledge or expertise.
I like that. Now that's one, right? And that's all I'm saying, Constance and y'all, is that the end of the day, the reality is that we are, even with all the wealth of information, the TikToks, yada, yada, yada. The end of the day, and the reality is that our people are still being displaced. So,
and I love your heart. I love your heart, Felice. But I'm not giving black folks a pass on that, because we got too much motherfucking information, and we scroll more than anybody. So get your ass up off of this and stop scrolling on TikTok and start getting on YouTube and learn some shit real quick before y'all respond. Let's go to the next video, because I know we keep talking and we're supposed to go to the next video.
Won't fix shit. If your landlord is a slumlord, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. Always have proof of your request. So are you putting them in through a portal, through a text, through an email? Always put it down in writing, not verbal. Always include dates, descriptions, and photos when you're submitting your request. If the delay is too long, follow with a written follow-up. If it's a very serious issue, code enforcement. Yes, code enforcement is going to come out, and code enforcement is going to make them fix it. Look up the state and city you're in and find code enforcement number and call code on their ass. Document everything. Keep everything, just in case you have to go to court. You're going to have all of the proof. So that means you 9 times out of 10 going to win the case, girl. Don't threaten them. Please do not threaten your landlord. Don't threaten them damn people. That's where you living at. And you want to win your case.
Amen.
Facts. I'm the queen of, when I was a serious renter hunter, I was the queen of a 5-day health and safety notice. And I actually moved out of an apartment because they would not fix the electricity. And I pulled that reverse Uno on their asses and got the hell up on out of there. So I think people are afraid to do things like that, but you have rights. You have the law to protect you, and utilize those things. And there are volunteer pro bono lawyers associations in every city where you can go get free legal advice about housing issues.
What you think, Dominique?
I agree. I'm a nurse, so I believe in documenting everything. If you don't document it, it's not done, and making sure that you have all your ducks aligned. So when you go, you're able to present your receipts and say, hey, I had this conversation about X, Y, and Z, and this is, and it wasn't addressed. They can't deny what's in writing. They can't deny what they responded to. They can't deny what was sent to their email or their phone. So documenting everything, I agree with her 100%. Yes, we're upset and we get angry, but we have to be able to self-regulate, and take care of business, which means document your stuff, put it in writing, and then go through the appropriate channels, reaching out to attorneys, doing things like that to help protect you.
And I think, Felice, because I hear you, and we're talking about what's the resolution. And I think that's a strong resolution. What do you think about what she said? Because at the end of the day, shit happens. Landlords are slumlords. Tenants don't pay the rent. People be squatting. People be stealing. At the end of the day, what can the people who are victims do? What do you think about that advice?
I like that advice. I think that I think there's more that we can do, that we make sure that our people have access to this information and the right information in a way that's efficient and doesn't subtract from the time that they have. Like, they've got they probably holding 3 jobs, right?
Mhm.
And so for them to be able to have access readily available to them, to be able to get, like, to have this stuff done, because even time is value to them, right? Time is taken away from things. And so how do we get really good information to our people so that they know what is available to them and what their rights are? Because then they start, okay, yeah, I might can ask ChatGPT, where do I go to make sure that I can fight for this? I'm sure that can happen if they can afford the internet and the Wi-Fi, like all of those things. We have to make sure that they have access to this data and that it's readily available to them, so that they're not fishing for it either. Like, a lot of people don't even know what their rights are, where to begin to know where their rights are. And I think that's where we come in, that hopefully these TikToks that we're, creating is giving them that information. So if they are scrolling, they can find it. And so I think all of that is good. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's our responsibility, and I try to, and I think we all, and that's the reason why we're here. We're just trying to give information. We're trying to provide not just entertainment, because listen, if I was shaking my ass on TikTok, I would have millions of views. If I was doing all that, I'd have millions of views. But when I'm trying to drop this knowledge, I get 3 views and shit. So you got to be willing. The people got to be willing to listen. But I think, we just got to keep being consistent with us just ringing the alarm of what people have access to and the opportunities out there, because there is a lot of thievery. There's a lot of victims. And, it's America is built on corruption and abuse. And, you think that people who are fraudulent, if they spent the time doing the right thing, they could be so much further, but people spend so much time trying to figure out how they can get over. You know what I'm saying? And so I think, just mindsets have to change, but we have to just be vigilant as educators to let people know what's going on. But Black folks, I think we still have to take responsibility. Let's take a look at some of the stats. So unsafe housing conditions are common in older buildings, especially when landlords delay repairs to avoid costs. Many renters do not have emergency savings. Surveys show a large number of Americans cannot afford a sudden $1,000 expense without going into debt. That is true. A lot of us are like one paycheck away from being homeless. And that is the reality. Job losses have increased in January. I think this is the highest losses of jobs since 2008, since the Great Recession.
And 300,000 Black women are out of a job since March.
And 300,000 Black women are out of work since March. So it's a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of people are just barely making it. Credit cards are being used just to pay basic necessities, because people just don't have it. They're going into their retirement. So it's a lot going on. And I seen on TNN where you had Kevin O'Leary talking about, but the stock market, it's like, yeah, but people are losing their jobs. But there's a war going on in America, but the stock market, that's not translating to more jobs. So I don't know, this administration is so out of touch, because all the fuck they care about is stock market, shareholders, corporations, but they don't care about the people. And the people are the one who's suffering. And that's going to be the great downfall of America, in my opinion. The average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in New York City often ranges between $3,000 and $4,000, depending on the neighborhoods. Financial experts recommend housing costs stay under 30% of your income, but many families are spending 40-60% just to keep a roof over their head. Think about that. If you got to get paid 3 times the rent in New York, 3,000 or say 4,000 month rent, that's $12,000 you need to be making. What's the average income for an average worker in New York? Is that 120, 130,000?
No, it's not. No, and also in New York, the city of New York has a 1% vacancy rate in apartments. So you have all these people that need housing, and you only have 1% of units available to rent.
That's crazy. In many major U.S. cities, rent has risen by 20% or more over the past few years, making it harder for families to stay stable. I was just having this conversation with someone right before I got on here. So that, you think, considering those statistics, what are people to do? We're going to go with our final thoughts. And I'll start with you, Dominique. What are your final thoughts? With that being said, and everything that you've seen today, what's the solution? What are we supposed to do? What is the answer, Dominique?
So I feel like we have to take our power back. Home ownership, positioning yourself to purchase, where you're able to control what your mortgage or your, what it looks like. And we have to get the education. There are lots of free courses and things that are available to you, social media. A lot of us, I know myself, we do a lot of free courses, but people have to be willing to take the time and not necessarily have fun, but listen to the information that is provided to them and tap into the free things. But again, in order to change this, home ownership to me is the answer to it 100%. So if you are looking to follow me, I am on all social media platforms at the Whitmore Group. We are a real estate team that is built to educate, empower, and equip individuals and businesses to build wealth through real estate. And we can help you purchase throughout the United States. And then if you want to keep up with what we're doing, you can go to our website at thewhitmoregroup.com.
Let's go. So home ownership is the answer. That's what Dominique said. Do you agree, Dr. Charm?
Absolutely. The property taxes can fluctuate, but that home ownership, you get that 30-year fixed mortgage, you know what your mortgage is going to be. And then you also have equity and ways to build wealth. So home ownership is the key, but we do also have to protect our renters, and advocacy and hope, and getting these politicians involved as a community is very, very important, because a city like New York is always going to be a renter city. It's not going to be an owner city. So you have to look at the different dichotomies that exist. But as far as I'm concerned, I specialize in first-time home buyers. And I just did a seminar on things to do to position yourself to be able to buy a home at the digital conference that we just had, the All Black National Convention digital version. And we had a really great response to that. A lot of people got questions answered. And if you're wanting to rent and you want a luxury apartment here in the city of Atlanta, Georgia, and the surrounding area, you can follow me, because I also specialize in apartment locating. You can be in that luxury place, and then we'll get you into a home later on down the line too. Dr. Charm Luxury is my IG for the luxury properties. And if you just want some comedy and you want to just laugh and be fun and have some good times, I got some new skits up on my IG, Charm Girl 77. Love y'all. Great conversation.
Well, I was going to ask Felice what she thought, but she said, I got to go. She said, I got a hard stop at 2. I got appointments. I got to get the hell up out of here. So I will say this. I agree with both of my real estate sisters. The thing about it, though, is affordability. The house prices are going up. And I saw a statistic that a lot of agents, I think 50% of agents last year did not sell one home, because the homes aren't selling as much as they were because interest rates and things like that. So what's the answer? I think somebody said it on here. We got to pull our stuff together, and we need to buy together. Right here. We need to possibly buy together. What's wrong with practicing collective economics when it comes to purchasing property? Sometimes we got to do maybe multi-generational living. Maybe you got to live with your mama or your children and compound that together until you can get out. I tell my daughter, especially with, these Gen Zers, her specialty is working with Gen Zers. And I'm like, these little Negroes can't afford homes, but maybe if they pull their money together and they learn at a young age to start pulling their resources together, maybe they can do it. So I think that's the key. Just like you guys said, home ownership is absolutely the key. Here's the thing. If you don't got no money, 1 month, say something happens and you can't pay your rent, guess what'll happen? If you don't pay your rent by the 5th, what happens? You get a notice to pay or quit. You get what do you call that? What they send you when you, well, anyway, you get a notice to pay or quit. You get an eviction notice. They start the eviction process on the 5th. If you own a home, they will work months. Yeah, they will work with you. They have workout departments. They could do a loan modification. They could do a deferment. They could do a forbearance. So you're more apt to have a mortgage company work with you than you would having a landlord. So, you know, and if they get you out, they could probably raise the rent and get more money anyway. So I think that's the key too. I'm with my sisters. It really is about home ownership, and we got to get in position, Black people, by any means necessary. Whether you can do it individually, or you don't buy that McMansion up front. Maybe you got to buy something smaller, or you pull your funds together and you buy together. But whatever it is, we got to get in position to where we are owners and not renters. Okay, so where can you find me? Everywhere at I Am Constance Carter. Guess what, y'all? You see this right here? I got a bunch of grays that I didn't even know. My ass is turning 50 next week. And so guess what? So everything I got, everything I have, I'm doing. I just announced. This is the first place I'm announcing this. I'm doing 50% off of everything I do. 50%. You go 50. I'm about to be 50, so everything is 50%. So you go on my website. Net 7 Collective is 50% off. What else? All my stuff is 50. Every financial literacy program that I have is 50% off up until the end of the month, end of February. So go to constancecarter.com, put in CC birthday in the checkout, and you can get everything 50% off. Everything for my 50th birthday. See this gray? So let me end with this, y'all. Let me see. What am I ending with, you guys? This story is so frustrating, but it's also reality for a lot of people. Nobody should be paying $3,000 a month and still living in conditions that are unsafe or uncomfortable, especially with children in the home. You know what? We never addressed the fact, because I think Tierra kept saying back in the back, well, she need to buy a space heater. Why she ain't buy a space heater? She got to get a space heater. We didn't address that, but this is why people are stressed. This is why families feel stuck. The cost of living is high, and too many landlords are taking advantage of that. So we appreciate you, queens, and shout out to Dr. Felice. We didn't get her final thoughts, but you can reach us. You can see us here every day, same back to. Oh, before we go, this is Black History Month. You guys, really quick before we go, Dr. Jesse Jackson just passed away yesterday. Do you guys have any sentiments about the passing of Jesse Jackson? I'll start with you, Dominique. Do you have anything?
I mean, he was a trailblazer. He's from Chicago, where I'm from, so he was always out and about and involved. And it's sad that he passed away. And I'm hoping that somebody takes torch and moves forward with this mission.
What about you, Dr. Charm?
I have mixed feelings because Jesse Jackson definitely was in many ways the de facto Secretary of State. At one point, he helped get 700 hostages freed. And when they had one of the plane hijackings. But I have a little bit more knowledge, and there's a lot of controversy about him and Dr. King's relationship, and him being implicated in the assassination, and that came out during the trial. That happened with Dr. King's family sued the government and unknown parties, and so I have mixed feelings because of that complicated legacy. But I will have to say that if anything, I can say Jesse Jackson will always be remembered as someone who was impactful.
Yeah, you know what? I would say, he definitely made an impact, and the New York Post said that Trump made a powerful tribute to Jesse Jackson, and his powerful tribute was basically Jesse Jackson liked me, so therefore Black people like me because I help Black people, and it's all about me. And oh, by the way, he couldn't stand Obama. Like, how you make a tribute to Jesse Jackson about your white ass? Like, this is narcissism on steroids. I don't know if you got to go, but let me Dr. Charm, if you got to roll, because I know you got to be out, you got a hard stop. Let me just say what our Black fact is for the month, and then we're gonna get out of here. So I want you guys to know about. Who is it? Oh, the Black teen who became a millionaire, an oil millionaire in 1913. Her name was Sarah Rector. In 1913, a 12-year-old Black girl named Sarah Rector became one of the richest Black children in America. She was born in Indian Territory, now called Oklahoma, and was part of the Muskogee Creek Nation through her family's lineage. My kids are Muskogee. Because of federal and land allotment policy, she was assigned 160 acres of land. The land was considered undesirable and rocky, so white officials assumed it had little value. But oil was discovered on her property. So by the age of 12, she was earning what would equal to hundreds of thousands of dollars per month in today's money. Newspapers began calling her the richest colored girl in the world. And here is the part that shows you how this country moves. Because she was Black and wealthy, white guardians were appointed to control her finances. There were legal battles over who would manage her fortune. Lawmakers suddenly became concerned about how a young Black girl was handling so much wealth. So that's our Black history fact today. And that's all I got to say. Y'all, shoot. I don't even know if you can hear me because my computer just froze up.
We can hear you.
So
we can hear you.
Okay,
You're just frozen, but we can hear you.
I can't see you guys. My computer's frozen. So listen, today was a great show, and we will see you tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.